Guys, welcome back to the Investor Army podcast. Today we have a high-level real estate entrepreneur on here. We're going to be talking about how he built his business, how he built a portfolio of almost 100 rental properties and notes. That's a lot of cash flow. I think a lot of you would like to have that. We're talking about his wholesaling class, his REI club, and also hard money lending a little bit because that's the new business he's getting into as well. Let me introduce you to my guest, Landon Rothstein. How you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Great. How's it going, Connor?
I'm doing good. You know, we just got back from Cancun, had fun down there at the Mitch Steven Mastermind. Guys, if you want to hang out with Landon and I next year, find out when those dates are and meet us down there.
We know the dates already.
Oh, do that? Do we?
Yeah, May 15th and 19th.
All right, guys. Well, if you want to look into that, let us know. We'll figure out how to get that information to you. But I want to talk about kind of how you got started in the business. Also, you know, you're part of a franchise similar to kind of what HomeVestors does, but we'll talk about that as well.
Right.
Because a lot of people, you know, when it comes down to it, not everybody has the ability to start out and do their own marketing. And sometimes it's good to plug into a system. I know a lot of people that own franchises, different types of franchises, vanity numbers, and these have been very beneficial for them and their business. So let's kind of let you introduce yourself a little bit more in detail, where you're from, when you got started in the business, and kind of your thought process as you got into the business. Did you want to start out wholesaling, flipping houses, and we'll kind of transition to how you built this big portfolio.
Sure. Okay. I'm originally from New York. I came down here in 1993, and now I'm just outside of Houston. And I've worked regular jobs, and for the past 15 years, up until 2016, I was working at my mother's business. So it had nothing at all to do with real estate. We're like a school for alcohol and drug education. If somebody gets a DWI, they come to our school. And, so if you ever need anything, Connor, just let me know.
How do you know?
If you get a DWI, I can hook you up. So anyway, these people go through our school and, they get their certificate and, they can get their license back. But I started real estate investing back in 2009. I just started kind of dabbling like on the side. I saw a house that I went to an auction, and it was kind of a crazy situation. There was a big picture of the house up on the George R. Brown Jumbotron. There was another picture of the house on the internet that I had. Excuse that. And then the last one, they had like some brochure. So there are like 3 different pictures of this house that I wanted. Then somebody outbid me, and I stuck around. And a lot of times with these auctions, what you do is if you stick around, these houses come back up because the financing doesn't go through for whatever reason. So I wound up getting the house for $10,000. I never seen the house because they had a whole bunch of houses that were quote unquote open. And my wife and I drove around to these houses, and not a single one of them was open. So we were wasting our time with that. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. So this house that I bought was literally like sight unseen. And then the very next day I went out there, and there's a huge, huge tree through the roof. There's a huge hole in the house. It was my wife was practically crying. I'm not kidding. I was like, this is some crap way to start investing. This is not a good sign.
You bought a tree.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was a tree house. So anyway, I called up a real estate attorney, and I told him, I said, look, they didn't disclose it was a tree. All 3 of these pictures, they didn't show it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, the owners weren't there. And he says, well, Landon, if they didn't sign, call them up, tell them you don't want it. And I didn't even know how to spell deed at this time, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about, So I called up the seller, and I said, hey, look, I can't give you $10,000 for the house. I'm going to have to destroy it and put up a new house. I'll give you $5,000. They said, well, take it. So I said, okay, that's pretty nice. Now I got $5,000. But I should have prefaced that with I brought out a contractor in the meantime, and he said, it looks worse than it is. It's not through the main rafters. We can take care of this, blah, blah, blah. So got that first house. It took me like forever to get it repaired because I was literally working a full-time job, and this real estate thing wasn't a big deal to me at the time. It was just like some kind of thing that might kind of work or not. It was like a hobby, with the first house. Let's see if it works. But I'm not kidding. It took me like over 9 months to get the house rehabbed. But, I got it rehabbed, and I got renters in there, and then I started realizing I could make a little money with cash flow. And, there's a group down here that you're probably familiar with, and their whole model is to teach you how to buy houses, fix them up, and rent them out. buy another house, fix it up, rent it out. That's their whole model. So that's what I did. I just kept buying more houses. After that first one, then I got the next one. And what I did was I pulled out cash because that first house that I got fixed up, I had a free and clear because I only paid $5,000 for it. Appraiser said it was worth $65,000. So at that point, you were able to take out 75%, which I think is still pretty close today. It's either 70-75% as a cash out refi. And that was $48,750, which to me at the time, I think was probably the most money I ever had in one chunk in my life. So I was like, okay, so now I'm hooked on real estate. So I took that money and I went and put down payments on the next few houses, because back then I could still get conventional loans. Now I got too many properties. So, I bought another house, did the same thing, fixed it up, rented it out, bought another house, fixed it up, rented it out, and just kept on going, But after the fourth one, I did a big push to find private lenders because, 4 is like one of the first hurdles. After 4, it's hard to get the fifth one. You can get 10, but my debt to income ratio was screwed up because I was making like 70 grand a year, so I didn't have a good debt to income ratio after those first few houses because the way the banks do it, or most of them, they kind of penalize you like for the debt that you have going out, but they're not giving me credit for the rent that's coming in for 2 years. You got to show it on your tax returns for 2 years. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't get it, but yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I went on a big push to find private lenders, which is another thing I need to do again. So if anybody's listening, anyway, so I sent out a whole bunch of letters. I bought a list and sent out like over 5,000 letters, and I got a handful of people that were interested. Some of them were like just crazy. They wanted 18% and points and 16% and points and all this. So I found one guy who said he'll give me loans at 10%, no points. And the beautiful thing to me, what he said was, I'll give you long-term loans. He was doing 15 and 20 years with me in the beginning. Now he's doing 30 years with me because I've been working with him for over 8 years now, 9 years. So he was super, super tough to deal with. He was like one of these advanced investors. He's been investing for like over 40 years, and he knows a whole hell of a lot more than I do. So he was really, really tough on me. But now I've never missed a payment with him, never been late once, So it's pretty much like I pick up the phone and say, hey, I need to get money for this house, and it's there. He doesn't grill me as hard as he used to anymore. So that's how I started going over to getting the private lenders. And you just keep building up the houses and building up the houses. After a while, you start realizing, wow, this is adding up to some money. I remember the point where I got to, it was like I didn't really need to work anymore. I kept my job, but I knew I had enough money coming in from the real estate. And 2016 came around, and by that point, I built up to 57 houses. I worked for my mother. She laid me off, and my wife at the same time. So it was kind of nice, both of us getting laid off at the same time. But like I had 57 houses at the point, so I knew I wasn't going to starve.
Right.
So I just kept on, getting more rentals. I never really, I did wholesaling and rehabbing, but not nearly as hard as I did as being a landlord. Because to me, it always made more sense to hold on to the properties. Because it's like when I sell a house, I'm killing the golden goose. Right. I know these houses can produce and produce and produce for 30 years, forever. So I never really liked selling houses. I liked just buying houses and renting them out. But now what I'm doing is turning off my cell phone so it don't keep ringing. But now what I'm doing is, after seeing the light, and one of my favorite mentor heroes of mine, Mitch Stephen, which the trip we were just on.
Right. Great guy.
I saw him a couple of times here in Houston. He was at some company that's no longer in business. And I kind of liked his idea. And then I didn't really do it. I was still just caught up in the grind of just buying houses and renting them out. But it sounded like such a good thing. I just didn't jump on it, And then he came back to town again, maybe a year and a half later. And I saw him again. And I was like, man, I got to do this. This just sounds so much easier than having to deal with tenants and toilets and all that kind of garbage, roof roofing, roofs leaking. um, so, it's so much easier just to get a check every month and not have to deal with all that kind of garbage. So that's my main focus these days. I mean, I still do, like, I'll do lease options. I do subject to wraps, all this kind of stuff. But, some of it I do in conjunction with owner finance. Like, I'll get a house subject to, then I'll sell it on a wrap, through owner finance. Um, I like those kind of deals, or I like even better where I get a seller that will seller finance to me, and then I'll turn around and I'll re-owner finance it out. Because the way I structure my deals, and I can get these quite often, is I don't tell anything to the guy who I'm buying it from, anything about interest. So,
Right.
Let's say he wants 50,000. I'll say, look, I'll give you 250 a month for 200 months. So there's no interest in there. So when I sell it, of course, I'm going to sell it on with 10% interest, and of course, I'm marking up the price. Maybe I'll buy it for 30, sell it for 60, or buy it for 20, sell it for 60, whatever. And also make money on the interest. So it's a beautiful, beautiful situation to be in.
Right. So you have a great story. I mean, what a lot of new investors don't understand is, like what you just said, they want to make that quick money, that immediate gratification. They want to wholesale the house, put that $5,000 check in their pocket. But why not close on these properties if you can figure out how to get the money and keep them long term? So are these houses that you start out buying, it sounds like they're pretty lower price point. They're not really equity plays. They're more just strictly cash flow. Or what price range were you kind of buying them in?
Yeah. Almost all the houses I've bought, and there's been several exceptions, of course, but most of the houses I've bought have been under $100,000. And there's kind of a sweet spot where I think 100's still a little bit too high for me, because most people, if I buy it at 100, I might sell it at 150 or 180, and people don't want to pay 10% interest on those high amounts. So my sweet spot's definitely lower than that. Like 80 and down is really where I want to be when I'm buying, and then I could sell them. Like, I sold a house up in New Caney not that long ago. I sold it for 134,000, and I got my 10% interest, and I got them on note servicing. So and I own that one free and clear. So that one's
Oh,
that one's going to make me a ton of money. Because
yeah,
when you amortize that out, it's
it's a lot.
I forget what it was. It's at least maybe three hundred
Yeah,
thousand
kind of like
dollars.
low three. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, right. So it's just a whole lot of money that's going to be coming in, whether I do another deal or not. It's just going to be coming in for like 30 years, a little less than 30 years now. And I always go for the 30-year notes because I want these money to come in for as long as I can. I know on average now it's about 9, maybe 10 years that people are they either cash you out or they're done with the house. But I like to keep the houses as long as I can. I'm a fan of money coming in every month.
That's a horrible thing to have.
Yeah, right. Especially when you got a lot of it.
So let's talk about the endurance side of this, because I think people are not patient enough. Now, it wasn't easy for you when you started. You talked about 9 months to do your first deal. How long did it take you to really get to where your liabilities to live your life were overcome? I know you got to 57 houses in 2016, but like, how many houses were you buying year 2, year 3? Because most people get stuck in this like 4 to 10 houses, and they're not seeing the net cash flow that they wanted or that they thought when they put it on pen and paper, because they either misbought a house or they bought a house and misran their numbers as far as rehab costs on it. And then at the end of the year on paper, they were supposed to be making like $7,000, but after, you know, evictions and tenant turnover and things like that, they're basically not making any money. And they say, this doesn't work, this is too much, and they give up. But those that make it just keep chipping it out over time, right?
And that's what I did. And to answer your question, it was kind of like one of those graphs that kind of starts out like this and goes up. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but it's
Exponential. Yep.
exponential. Yeah, it was in the first year, like it was that one house essentially. Then it was like 2 or 3 the next year. Then it was like 5, 6 the year after.
Right.
In 2016, I bought 45 houses. So it was just, it just shot up in 2016. Then in 2017, I'll be honest, I was really like catching my breath from buying all those houses and trying to get them organized and get them on note servicing and get people in the houses. So I kind of slowed down in 2017, but I've got so many houses and so many properties, so much money coming in now. that I'm okay with kind of getting stabilized, you
Right.
know?
Well, I think that's it's very important to understand what he just said, as far as exponential growth in your portfolio, because in the beginning of your business, that first year or two, a lot of your time goes into educating yourself, making those mistakes. And then when you make a mistake in real estate, this is not a quick business to fix mistakes. It can take time to get out of it, right? I've had houses that I had for over a year that I planned on holding for like 3 months, right? So there's a lot of wasted time on those early years of your business. But then you realize the mistakes you made, you don't make those mistakes again. You figure out how to plug leaks in your business, that you're leaking money out in certain areas. You put better systems into place, better organization, maybe bring in some people on your team, and you just get more efficient at what you do. And so you do go from the 1 to 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, and you increase that deal flow. And so I think when people start on the psychology, the way they look at it, they're like, well, I spent 2 years to buy 3 houses. If I do another 2 years and I only got six, another 2 years, I've only got like, it's just going to take forever to get there. And they give up. And that's their thought process at the time because they don't see that jump exponentially on the horizon, which is actually what happens for people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right because you get better at everything. You get better at analyzing the deals, you get better at finding the deals, you get more familiarized with the whole title process. Everything just kind of becomes second nature. That you're not wasting all this time learning. Like, I mean, I've spent over 100,000, probably over 110,000 at this point on education. So
Right.
I'm always constantly learning. That's why I went on the Mitch Stephen trip. Learned a lot of good stuff on that trip. There's a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to start implementing. And the last Mitch Stephen trip, I learned something phenomenally good that I'm going to make literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. Just off of one tip that I was not doing.
Right.
So
It's Yeah, it's important to understand that I preach this all the time to investors that you need to travel into different markets or into different networking groups because if you're trying to go to your local clubs in your local area, I mean, yeah, people will share some stuff, but they're not going to really share, those late night conversations when you're sitting at the bar together, what they're really doing. Whereas if you go and talk to someone from Ohio or Florida or California and you're opening up to them, they're going to open up to you. And so that's when some of the most valuable information shared is traveling to events and traveling to network with other investors.
hey, let's not say anything bad about local RIAs.
Hey, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's go ahead and talk about, okay, so how do you,
But you're right, though. But before you move on, you're absolutely right. When I go on these trips, like we just went on, or the other group that we belong to, there's a whole lot more free sharing. It's okay to see these things, these other groups, or
oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like the Financial Friends Network. That's one of them.
Wait.
And
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, edit. Yeah. Anyway, like Mitch's thing and them, you learn a whole lot because the people real, and I'm the same way. I don't hold back because there's people, they're not competing against me. They're not in my
Right.
backyard. So, you just feel very free to really share a whole lot of stuff that you wouldn't do, like you said, locally. Other people who are going to be competing against you.
Right. So here's one thing I learned early on that I think a lot of it, this is going to help a lot of y'all. Like I learned early on um, that so in the first few years of my business, I thought I had to know everything. I was a professional learner, like they call them, where I was just trying to learn and consume everything I had or could find. And then I realized this is way too time consuming. I don't have to know everything myself. I just need to be one phone call away from someone that knows everything. So one phone call away from an expert that knows about IRAs like Quincy or John Heyer, or one phone call away from a Mitch Stephen, or, so you need to create a network. And that's what you're going to get going to these networking groups. Because if you can pick up
Yeah.
the phone and call an attorney across the country that can answer your question real quick, that you would never be able to find out on your own, or it would take years researching case law and stuff like that. It's just so valuable to have that network to tap into whenever you want.
Right. And it really depends on where you're at in your investing career. Because I know, like when I started out, literally like for the first 4 or 5 years, I was going to every meeting. Everybody would
Right.
tell me, Landon, I see you everywhere, and I was at, this club, that club, all the major clubs and networking events and all that kind of stuff, every single one of them. And I just got to meet so many people and connections. It was, priceless. I learned so many good things. You learn a little tidbit here and there. I wouldn't say it could take the place of like a mentoring program because the mentoring programs are a lot stronger, especially if you find a good local mentor, but going to those networking events and meetings are hugely, hugely important in this business.
Right. You have to almost take it, you see that commonly. People I mean, I know a ton of people that spend over 100 grand on their education, and they're not guys doing it all at once. You're not just taking 100 grand out of your pocket and throwing it down. You're doing it
Right.
over time. You're learning from different areas, but you have to almost be obsessed in consuming information because you
Uh,
can learn through the street justice, as we call it, or you can learn through wisdom, which is learning through what other people have figured out and are sharing with you.
yeah, absolutely. But there's also a point where I said to myself, "All right, I'm going to." I had a full time job, of course, and I was going to meetings every night. I was like, I felt like, all right, I've learned enough for now. I've got to start doing deals,
Right.
and I've got to focus on more deals because at that point I had access because I was paying mentors. So if I did get stuck, I can call them up.
Absolutely. So that if you graph that, I talk about this too, the diminishing return on your education. It gets harder and harder as you learn more. So it's reversed. So in the beginning, it's worth it to travel out here and spend all that money. But then unless you're going into like a really niche area or something specific with an expert, just to go out to these, basic one-on-one classes and areas, you're not getting, you already know what you know. So it's not as important as actually getting out there doing the business, making deals happen. So let's talk about how you got these deals. You mentioned earlier you were going to auctions. That's the biggest question I get from people is, lead generation. Like, how does someone like Landon build a portfolio to almost 100 houses?
Okay, well, in the beginning, I was doing it the easy way. I just had a realtor go look for deals for me. I was literally buying them off MLS. There was REOs, which they went through the foreclosure process. I know you know that, and I was getting deals that way. Just buying them right off the MLS. In fact, I did that for the first few years. I wasn't doing a lot of this other fancy stuff. Like putting out bandit signs and direct mail and all these other kinds of
Right.
ways to get deals. I was literally just going off, and some of my best houses, to be honest, came from the MLS. And I think one of the problems is these days, a lot of people, I think, really still overlook the MLS. If you know how to search deals and really analyze and go through the MLS, you can find deals out there. They may not be as plentiful as they used to be, but you can still find them. Especially like you have an advantage over like Joe homeowner who wants to go use a conventional loan because us investors are coming in with cash, so you can beat most of them people out. You probably have the same problem up in the Dallas area, but Houston's very, very competitive. So you usually got to go above asking because they'll do the highest and best offer, and
Right.
and hopefully you'll get it. I've done some things. I've bought some houses. There was one house I wanted. It was $48,000. It was a foreclosure. I offered 67. Okay. Now, this is kind of a cool trick. I, I got the bank accepted my offer, right? So they weren't dealing with anybody else but me at this point. So then I went and I got an option period, had an inspector go in there, and then I really nickeled them all the way back down to the original price. So, and they accepted my offer, but I blew everybody else out of the water with that high 67, so now they're just dealing with me, and I got it back at the same price anyway. I literally just did that on a house. I closed on this morning. Some notary came out to my house this morning. It was originally 85,000. The bank dropped it down to 48. I offered 49. I won because there were a couple other investors. I just went a little over asking on this one, but then I won the bid. And then what was even better was I had an inspector go out after they accepted me, of course, and I got it knocked down to 44,000. And I got a buyer in place already who gave me a down payment of 4,500, and I'm selling it to them for 77.
Wow.
The most they wanted to spend was 68, but I got the end buyer to go up to 77, and I got the bank down from my original offer, which they accepted 49 to 44. So now I created some real spread in there. It's not one of my better deals, to be honest, because some of them I've done literally. I bought a house for 11,000, I sold it for 65. So that ratio is much better than 44 to 77. But
Right.
it's still nothing to sneeze at. It's going to make me money for a long time. 30-year note.
Right. Well, I mean, the reason why the banks will do that, guys, is because they're not an emotional seller. That it's not like it's their property. They're trying, and if they have to put it back up there, they have real costs to own these properties, and so they got carrying costs on them, and they're basically going back to the unknown. So if they're asking 48 once, now they're going to get it. Even though they thought they were going to get a little bit higher, it's still better than the unknown putting it back up, because what happens if their next offer is 47 or 46 and they still had those extra carrying costs? So it's just better for them to dump it, get that money back in. Right.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about so you've done something a lot of people I know that have been successful have done. You went and bought a franchise. So you're part of is it Lucky Buys Yucky Houses?
Yes, Lucky Buys Yucky Houses. And what's kind of cool for me is I wanted the Houston market, and they wouldn't sell it to me because somebody already had it. And I've got control of literally 28 counties, which is a huge, huge swath. I mean, I've got Harris County, Montgomery County, Liberty County, Galveston County, Fort Bend. I got just a bunch of counties all around here. And I control those 28 counties. So now nobody else can buy in on those counties. It's just me. They gave it to me exclusively. So now that I'm starting to get back around to where I can go into marketing, and what I mean by that is I've got all these properties, but I had too many vacancies. At one point, not too long ago, I had 19 vacancies. And we got it down to like 14. Now I'm down to about 7. And if I get around 3, 4, 5, I think I'm in the right ballpark. You know, you're not going to have this many houses and not have some vacancies. So I'm getting happy with where I'm at, where I'm going to start turning on the marketing machine again.
Right. I think
and part of that's Lucky Buys Yucky Houses.
I mean, because guys, when you buy a franchise, so they've already got pre-done radio commercials, pre-done marketing for you, and you can tap into a system that you know works, and it's a rinse and repeat duplicatable system. And I think a lot of people, this could be the best option for them, whether they go, we're not going to bring up other franchises, but if you want to get in the business, I know certain individuals that have been on this podcast that were struggling to launch their business on their own because they had a job, full-time job, or they had limitations with family, and they bought the franchise, and they've already put that front end heavy work in there to create all that for them to plug into, and that's what actually helped them become successful. So that may be an option for you guys to look into franchises. Now, for what you have here, because you own those DMAs or whatever they call it for those areas, is what now they call it?
You got it. You were right. DMA.
So, are you able to relicense, or are you able to rent those areas, or how would that happen, or is there?
Yep. It's funny you saying that, because we are just starting that this month. I run that large meetup, 713 Houston Area Real Estate Investor Network. It's on Meetup. I have the largest Facebook group in Houston for real estate investors. There's over 25,000 people on it. So what I'm doing with my partner, Ray Sasser, we're literally this month, we're going to launch what's called a buying group, and they will be able to chip in and buy units. And we're going to sell them like $1,000 units, but we're only going to open it up to our mentoring students first. So they're going to get first shot at it.
Right.
After that, if we have spots available, then we'll let other people in, and we'll do the Lucky Buys Yucky Houses thing. But we just hired some really advanced PPC and Google AdWords guy. He literally has done work for Home Depot and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so we hired him. He's going to be working for us. And he's just phenomenally good at getting leads through, Google AdWords and pay-per-click. So we're kind of excited about that. So what we're trying to do with this buying group is feed him, in the beginning, maybe it'd be $20,000, $30,000 a month. But I think after we get it fully up and running, I could see it being north of $100,000, where we're just giving them all the money to go get leads for us. And those leads will go to the people who are in the buying group.
Right. So say someone wanted to join your mentoring program and go through and kind of partner with you in one of these areas. Like, what is a sufficient amount of money that they should have prior to doing this? Like, what would be something that they could bring to the table and start their business without having feeling too much pressure and anxiety and stress upon them to kind of operate?
Okay. We have like 3 different levels for the mentoring program. There's a $3,500 level, which is basically just weekly phone calls, and they can send us emails. Then there's a $25,000 level, which there's phone calls and all this. Then we have the top one is a $50,000 level, where Ray or I will literally jump in the car with you, hold your hand with the seller, and go, do everything pretty much from A to Z, So those are the 3 different levels. What I didn't like was, with these out-of-town gurus, for example, they charge you $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, right, and they're not here. They're not going to jump in the car with you at all. Half of them don't even know the damn market that they're mentoring people in. Seriously, right. I joined this. It was an $18,000 program from some guy out of California, and my mentor I had was in Nevada, and he had no clue what was going on. And I literally had a half hour a month with him on the phone, which also I thought was ridiculous that they didn't tell me up front. So, but anyway, that was part of my education, and I'm happy I spent the money on education. Maybe not that happy with that particular program, but
Well,
I
it's
don't
good to
regret.
have it's good to have a local mentor that knows that market, because something that's going to work in a low price point market like Jackson, Mississippi, or Birmingham, Alabama, is not what's going to happen in San Francisco or LA, right? They're different
Right,
markets completely. And so you don't want to have someone who's not skilled in the exact strategy that you're going after. And plus, guys, if you're in Houston, you can go down to Landon's REI Club, which we'll talk about here in a second, and you can meet him. You can talk to people that know him. He's got a great track record, been in that area for a long time. And so it's really, it's his block, right? It's where he's from. And so he knows the area. So you have an REI Club down there. And when do y'all meet, and how would they get to come down there and experience that?
okay. We meet the second Wednesday of every month. Um, Last month we had Ron LeGrand.
Right?
I don't know if you ever heard of him. Um,
Who?
then this month we're going to be. When I say this month, I mean June 13th. We're going to be talking about our buying group that I was just mentioning, and the address is 125 Airtex Drive, and that's Houston, Texas 77090. And for people who know Houston, that's basically 45 North and Airtex Drive at the Holiday Inn Express. We have a webpage, 713reia.com, like for Real Estate Investor Association. So they can go there and find out more about it there. We also run a wholesaling class that we just started, and we've got a lot of people who are doing really well with that. I think it's pretty reasonable. It's $400, and what I like about it is it's 4 weeks. Okay, we're gonna have 4 live sessions on Saturday, and then we have calls during the week. We call them accountability calls. So 2 mornings, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, we help all of our students who are stuck. Like, let's say they went to a seller, and a seller had some kind of objection. Well, we walk them through how to overcome that objection, and it works out really well, because I've taken wholesaling classes before where literally you take it for one day, you're done. Yep,
Right.
you're on your own. Go figure it out. Or maybe it's a weekend, Saturday and Sunday. But us, it's literally 4 weeks, and we're even probably giving away too much here, because we actually let them repeat it up to 2 more times. So you can literally go to 12 live sessions, even though they'll be repeating. It's a 4 week module, so on week 5 we're basically starting is week 1 again. So. But anyway, they could have 12 live sessions and 24 accountability calls. And we've got students just doing great already, just putting properties under contract and making money. So it's going very, very well.
Right. I don't think people really, I mean, a lot of people, they understand that you need to get educated, but they don't understand the value of it. They look at a cost of that. But like one sentence out of someone's mouth, arranged in the right order, a few words, could potentially save them $10,000 on a deal, yet they're focused on the front end, small cost. And so, just like Landon, I spent probably well over $100,000 on my education, going all around the country on different strategies. And even Mitch was on our podcast. Like, I bought his home study course, and it resulted in me doing like a $27,000 deal that I tried to rehab and flip that house. And I got that invincibility complex as new investors get when they start doing well and they start closing on everything. And I bought a retail fix and flip in a small town that had like less than 3,000 people. And quickly I ran through the entire buyer pool there, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I used his strategy to create a note and sell a note. And that saved me a lot of money. So, they need to get educated, but they need to get the right education. And I know y'all have a great program. What about your hard money? You're moving into that. You're starting lending a little bit. Is
Yeah,
this, is, it, is this something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is this something strictly for your community, that you're working with, or is this that your people that go through your programs, or is this something you're branching out nationally, or kind of what's the vision with that?
Well, the vision is, there's a couple of visions here. The main vision is anybody can use it. Not just our students. We're just in front of a lot of the right people. Like in our meetup, there's literally over 200 people who go every month now, and it's just been literally going up every month. So I could see us hitting 300 very soon. When Ron LeGrand was here, we had over 240 people attend the event. But so we're in front of all the people like who are flippers, wholesalers, landlords, and the wholesalers not so much, of course, don't need the loans, but they're selling to people who do, like the landlords and the flippers, so they need the loans. So we just figured, we're in front of a lot of the right people, and hard money and borrowing like private money is kind of tricky. If you see, I run that Facebook group like I was telling you about, the 713 Houston area real estate investor network, and there's a lot of like scam people on there who are just wanting you to send $500 or $1,000 to process the loan, and meanwhile they just take your money. They're like in the UK or Nigeria or whatever. So
Right.
we wanted to be able to where we can almost be like kind of a one-stop shopping. We have a wholesaling class, we have the RIA. Our students could come and get money through us now. We've been approved by 4 companies that will let us broker their money. And what's kind of cool is one of them has a program where they'll do long-term rentals, so you can do like up to literally up to 30 years with them. Other ones they do short-term lending, but one of them's got this kind of neat thing that I haven't even really heard of, to be honest, till one other person told me about it, but it was after the fact. But what they're doing is, as far as hard money is, you can get pre-approved to go buy a property, which I've never seen a hard money company do before. All the hard money companies that I've dealt with, they want you to go get the property, then they'll analyze it and see if they'll loan you the money on it. But this company, what they did was kind of take like conventional thinking, like with conventional loans, where you go out and you get pre-approved, and then you go buy a property for a house that you want to live in, like everybody does, to buy their home that they're going to live in. So they kind of took that concept and they married it with the hard money thing. So you can actually go, you're already pre-approved with them, and go, excuse me, go find a house that you want, and they kind of base it on your experience too. The more experienced you are, the easier they are with you. But I like that whole concept. One other thing they do is kind of strange, I thought. Every hard company I've ever dealt with wants to do the BPO or appraisal up front. These guys let you actually do the rehab, and then they do the BPO afterwards. And I had that same look. I said,
What?
I'm like, wait, do that, say that again. So he told me, he said, yeah, one of the problems why these loans take longer is because you're waiting on the appraisal to come back. He says, what we do is we just move it to the back after the rehab's done, then we appraise it. But he said, Landon, it's not like we don't know what we're doing. We still do our comps before we approve anything,
Right.
but we get the BPO or appraisal afterwards. So
I'd say that makes sense why they would even waste the money or time to do it at all.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. But they do it after the the rehab is done. So anyway, and we got a couple of other people who've approved us, so we're ready to roll out the carpet on doing the hard money thing.
Right.
Which
So also, I know we talked a little bit before the podcast. You got a big portfolio. You're looking for potential lenders, portfolio loans. So if anybody knows anybody out there right now that could potentially do that, right? So you're looking to take a lot of your rental properties and put them in one loan.
Yeah, being into real estate investing, you don't want your money really just tied up. I mean, if I can pull out and I have a whole lot of equity on my properties. I did a cash out refi a few years ago. I only took out 4 of my properties, and I pulled out $220,000. And the thing to me about that was so great was there was no taxes on that. That was not a taxable event. So that $220,000 was actually mine. So I was actually I was able to take that money and go buy other houses. And I essentially want to do the same thing, do cash out refis or consolidate all of my private lenders into one portfolio loan, because my private lenders, when I get the portfolio loan from the rates that I've heard, it's going to be better than what I'm paying my private lenders anyway. Because like when I did that cash out refi on those 4 houses, it's going to sound kind of weird, but I pulled out that $220,000, and believe it or not, my monthly payments were less after I refinanced into the lower interest rate. You're going from like 10%, with a lot of my lenders were 8 or 10%, most were 10, and now I'm paying 5,
Right.
and I got all this extra money, so I got like a $220,000, and I'm paying less every month, so my cash flow is even higher. So, it's just it's a beautiful thing. It's one of the things why I love real estate, because I don't know any other business where you can kind of shuffle things around, and not only that, but now I have a whole bunch of rentals. I'm getting such tax depreciation on my money that literally last year I lost $37,000. You know, which
Right.
was phenomenally good.
I mean, there's just so many things you can do in real estate to change so many people's lives. I guess the last thing let's go over is maybe give some comparisons to why you like moving into owner financing more than rentals. I mean, even obviously though, I mean, still you need some rentals, but what are some of the biggest reasons you like the new owner financing, and that's why you're focused on that right now?
Well, the main things are I don't get the calls from tenants anymore because I've
Right.
never used a property management company. I've managed all my stuff in house. I've hired people to help me. I've got office staff, of course, but I don't. I trust office staff because I'm putting food on their table. I'm their main source of income. With a property management company, I'm maybe one of 500 houses, or one of 1,000 houses that they got. Maybe I'd not one. I'd have a bunch of them with them, but I still wouldn't be their main focus. And they're not going to take my houses as serious as I do. I want to make sure somebody's in them. They're being rented. Where the property management companies. I've heard some other things too, where let's say you want to get your AC fixed and the fan goes out, and
Right.
I can get fixed for $150 from my contractor. The property management company sends their guy out there. Oh, it's $350. Just a lot of goofy stuff like that. I said I like to learn the things as much as I can anyway, because I figured with me managing my own properties, I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to see all the tricks the tenants are going to pull on me. I'm going to see all the stuff that the contractors are going to try to get over on me. So I'm going to be in the trenches battling them. So now if I ever do release any of my rentals to property management, they're not going to be able to snow job me. I mean,
Right.
I'll know what to look for. I'll know what's reasonable.
You're right. That's why a lot of people get taken advantage of, because they haven't been in the trenches. They don't know what things cost. It's a lot of reason why people get ripped off when they start rehabbing houses too, because they don't have any idea what it costs to put in an HVAC system, or what it costs to put in a pier or something like that. So these contractors, guys, be careful. This is why it's good to have a mentor or partner with you, because they're going to throw these little probing questions out there to test your intelligence, and they're going to know right away if you're a new investor, and if they think that you're new, your bill just got a lot higher than it would have been if they thought you're experienced.
I got a very good story that goes along with that. One of my earlier houses, I bought it was a foreclosure, so all the electrical had been ripped out. So I started looking around, and I was sending out emails and making phone calls to get an electrician. First one responded. He said he could do it for $12,000. I kept looking. Got another guy for 11, another guy for 10, another guy for 9. Now I'd get some that would come back would be 10 and 11 again, but then it went down to 8, 7, 6. Just kept going down and down and down. I got a guy who said, "All right, I can do it for 2,300." And I was just about to hire him, and another guy calls me up, and he's a licensed electrician, not just some handyman guy. He says, "Landon, I could do that house for $875." I said, "Do it." So he goes out
Right.
there, and he says, "Landon, look, I underbid this. There's more problems than I thought. I'm going to need to charge you 1,400." I said, "Okay." So literally from $12,000, if I had taken that first call, and gone with him, it would have been $12,000 for the same damn thing this guy did for 1,400. And like I said, he's a licensed electrician, so he had to do everything up to code. He wasn't just, he was using junction boxes. He wasn't splicing wires together. He did the job the right way. So, one important thing is to really make sure you get several. I was like kind of crazy with bids back then. It's when I had more time, I had less houses, and I was kind of fanatical about getting a whole bunch of bids. But it's a little bit harder these days when you got so many houses to
Right.
spend that much time meeting with contractors and all that kind of stuff. But
Well, just
if you got the time to do it, it could save you a whole lot of money.
I mean, it just takes time in the business. Like I just had a a retail client that I have a listing for them, and we agreed as a concession to put a new HVAC in there. Well, that buyer agent basically brought these bids that were like $9,000, 8,500. I was like, this is just ridiculous. Like we agreed to put this in there, but not pay like full retail price. I got it all
Yeah,
down to like $4,100 because I got investor prices on it. So
right.
it's just that important. And then also, let's go ahead and wrap it up here. But also for like owner financing guys, you don't have you can do more deals, because you don't have to have it as much cash in reserve. So if you're just buying the house and not putting so much in it, and owner financing as is, you're not dealing with inspections and appraisals and having to go back to the bank and refi. So there's just a lot of reasons why owner financing is a great strategy.
Yeah, and not only that, what I do, the way I do my own financing is I buy the house and then I resell it as is.
Right.
I don't do any of the rehab at all.
Right.
It's very rare. If I got a house that's sitting for a while, then I might, if it's sitting for more than 30 days or 60 days, I'll start saying, okay, I got to get some work done on the house, because when obviously the better shape the house is, the bigger buyer pool that you have. But I try not to get into rehabs because they can really bog you down, a lot.
Right.
So
there's only so much we can go over in an hour, guys. So I know you probably want to reach out to Landon and talk about either potentially partnering with him with Lucky Buys Yucky Houses in his areas in Houston, looking to his wholesaling classes or his hard money loans. How do they reach you, Landon? You want to throw out your number and your contact information?
yeah, sure. My phone number is 281-852-7777. 281-852-7777. My email is real easy. It's Landon, LANDONR @gmail.com. And I'm very prolific on Facebook. So just Landon Rothstein. You'll see me in the Houston area. So, yeah. And we got a website for 713-REIA, 713REIA.com, 713REIA.com. So those are several ways they can find me.
Awesome. All right, man. I mean, hopefully some people reach out and go check out your REI club. And guys, go check out his Facebook group. Is it a closed group, or they can just...
No. It's like I said, there's over 25,000. So it's very open. And it's I'm still kind of biased because it's mine, but it's very active. I mean, there's always people that you throw up a question there you need answered. You look for a contractor, just a whole bunch of good stuff on there. So
right.
713 Houston area Real Estate Investor Network, which is quite a mouthful, but it's there on Facebook if you search for it on Facebook.
Awesome, guys. Appreciate you coming on here, Landon. Check out those dates. Come down there and hang out with Landon and I next year at the Mitch Steven Mastermind. Get to see what it's like to party with Landon and I down the pool.
Could be dangerous.
Yeah.
A lot of shots,
You better bring your big boy shorts.
Yeah. You might want to stay away from Connor. He's a bad influence.
Yeah.
So,
it's not how I remember it. All right, man. Awesome, Landon. I love what you do. Right. Guys, go check him out, and we'll see you on the next episode, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Connor.